This is the noob coming to you with a new video after a 4 or 5 month long hiatus. Mainly because we've gotten to the end of our first anime season of 2022, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it. So, to go over what I thought of this season in general, I would probably say it was a pretty good season overall, but not because we got a whole lot of good anime like in a lot of previous seasons, but because we had a few blowout animes this season. I'd say my top three for this season would probably be My Dress Up Darling, The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest, and the last episode of 86. Specifically, I want to go into just those three, but I am going to acknowledge that there was some other great anime this season. There was like Sabukui Bisco. I may have pronounced that wrong. There was Love of Kill, and a few others that I just cannot remember right now. But my top anime for this season were just those three I mentioned: My Dress Up Darling, Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest, and 86. So I'm going to start with this isn't going in any particular order. I'll give my overall, what I consider the best anime of this season at the end. But I'm going to start off with just The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest. I just finished the last episode of that. And this is an anime that I was expecting to like, and it started off kind of weak. I thought I was going to drop it early on, and I ended up keeping up with it. I just kind of powered through the very slow opening, and it just ends up just growing on you, and it becomes like an addiction to where you just have to watch each episode as it comes out. Which is one thing that really kind of sucks when you're watching seasonal stuff, is just having to wait that week between each episode to be able to watch the next one. I liked all in particular about that show. I really liked all of the side characters. I like the main character was really good, really well written in my opinion, and it seems like it's just one of those generic fantasy type shows at the start, and it kind of does start off like that. But over time, as you get to know more about these characters, they go through their share of struggles. And honestly, Iris, she just made the entire show worth watching by herself. She's I wouldn't say she was stupid, but she definitely shows that she doesn't have a lot of common sense traits that humans would typically have, but she's a dragon, so something about her as a character I just was really endearing to me. And she was more than just comic relief. She actually had moments of genuine heartwarming character development. Alma and Luri, I really like them. They're like best friends, but they kind of are so different from each other that you wonder how they became friends to begin with. But they both of them contribute equally, I'd say, to the team overall. And I would say Luri in particular, she seems like she wouldn't be as strong of a female character as she ended up being. So especially toward the end, seeing a character like her grow as much as she did, and push Mattias to greater heights himself. I ended up really liking her as a character. Alma, I think she's just really good because she's kind of like the foil to everybody else's character in the show. And Mattias was a really, really good main character. Yes, he was overpowered like every other main character in anime, but I don't feel like it was overpowered to a cheap extent. I feel like he was overpowered while still being underpowered enough to rely on his team, which made the other characters more useful than you would see in a lot of other shows. So I really did enjoy Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest, and if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, highly recommend that show. The next show I was going to go into is My Dress Up Darling. This is probably my favorite new show of this season, and so far my favorite new show of the year, but we are getting a bunch of new shows for the end of the year, so that is subject to change. Now, if you have seen or heard anything about this show so far, you probably know that as of right now, Kitagawa is probably waifu of the year. If not, like, I would almost say she's waifu of the decade, but that's going to be a topic for another video, and she's got some strong competition in that regard. But I like Kitagawa for the character that they tried to set her up as, and like how she ends up evolving over the course of the show. She became like more than just a waifu. She just became a really good character in general. The concept of My Dress Up Darling, a show about cosplay, I was a little turned off by it at first, and then I watched it, and I ended up just getting hooked on it. Not really because of the cosplay, because despite the fact that I'm a huge anime fan, I'm not really that into cosplay. But this show probably got me a little bit into cosplay. And then I think this show actually does a good job of showing like the amount of money, amount of time, amount of effort that really goes into pulling off a lot of these really intricate cosplays. And Kitagawa, like getting to see it through both Gojo and Kitagawa's eyes is like you kind of feel like, since they're both new to it and you're like new to it in a sense that you're experiencing it with them, you feel like the characters are like more relatable because they're experiencing things with you as a viewer for the first time. The romance between Kitagawa and Gojo obviously was phenomenal. It took so long to build up, and then we still haven't gotten that full build up to it yet. It's kind of like every time she comes close to like wanting to like confess to him, it's like it just doesn't happen. Or like that one time that she was flustered by Gojo was like passed out. So I'm not going to spoil too much in it, but it's a show that I think if you were like on the fence about it, you definitely should at least check out the first I'd say 1 or 2 episodes. Lastly, I wanted to talk about 86. 86 I think started back in I want to say like it started last year, but we just now got like the last episode of, I'm guessing this would be season 1. So or it could be season 2. I'm gonna have to go back and check. But it was a build, like it was this one episode we had waited so long, and normally when you have a single episode that's being hyped up this much in the huge build up to it, you're expecting to be disappointed. You're like, they'll never live up to the hype that they've built up for themselves. And this episode absolutely delivered. It was if you are a fan of 86, you owe it to yourself to go watch this episode. It came out like literally at the time of me recording this, it came out less than a week ago. So I kind of didn't even realize it was out. There was a lot of production issues during the development of this show, apparently, which might hinder us getting another season of this. But we absolutely need a new season of 86. They cannot leave it on the cliffhanger that they left it on. And on all of these shows, 86 included, I think they either have a light novel or manga adaptation. I'm going to go check on that too. This is kind of like an improvised video of me just collecting my thoughts. I I'm gonna say 8-6 was like the pinnacle of how you deliver a final episode of a season. What they built up to. They didn't decide to delay it or put it on a cliffhanger or make some like implied off-screen type stuff. They gave the fans what they wanted in this. I loved every bit of it. I've actually rewatched that episode in particular, and in particular the last like 5 or 10 minutes of the episodes I've watched over and over and over, and I'm just like, this one episode I've probably watched more than I've watched entire seasons of other anime and stuff, like, combined in just the amount of time I watched this episode. But it's a build up over, like, it's a long build up, and you think, oh man, this is just going nowhere, and then they just give you exactly what you want. It was great, and if anybody who hasn't gotten a chance to watch 8-6 yet, you need to watch it. I would pit it on one of my favorite new shows of this year as well, but it's not technically a new show from this year. It came out last year. I remember I started watching it like late last year, and I totally like started watching it by accident too. Like I just added a bunch of random stuff to my wish list, and I checked it out when I got through all of my other stuff, and I ended up getting hooked on it, and then got disappointed that we never actually got a conclusion, and it just kind of like ended abruptly. So like the fact that we got this conclusion in this episode, it made that wait well worth it. So I'm gonna be as soon as Solo is able to get back on, we're going to be making maybe a compilation of shows we're looking forward to for not just the next season but for the rest of the year, and also maybe talking about some of the other shows this season I didn't mention in this episode. Like this season had a bunch of other great anime I didn't talk about, like the ordinary guy who reincarnated as a knockout. We had Land of Liddell, which I have some kind of controversial opinions on that show. I say controversial in that I'm pretty sure most people disagree with me, so I may hold off on making that. Yeah, and I mentioned Sabukui Bisco. There was like some other ones I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I may go back and talk more about those shows. I'm also going to make another video talking about specific shows that I'm absolutely looking forward to in this next season, and doing recaps of those, because me and Solo in our podcasts, which anybody who's followed that knows, we did I think 17 episodes, but we had a rule, and we only ever broke that rule twice, that we would only cover 12 or 13 episodes or less shows. And that's because we would watch those entire shows during that week, and then we would, actually do the podcast, after we watched it, and we were doing it on a weekly basis. So it was shows that we could easily just watch really quickly. Going forward, we probably may continue that for the podcast, or we may go in a different direction. We've been talking about different ideas and stuff for that. And we might be talking about that in a new video as well. I just wanted to, since we got to the end of this season, talk about some of my favorite shows from this season. If you liked any of the content that we produce here, we would appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe, and check you out in the next video.